right, Zelly, why don't you grab the Kiddush cup? Come on over here.
Our Kiddush cup symbolizes the joy of Shabbat. Before we sing the prayer on page 5, we take a moment to celebrate simchas in our community. Does anyone have a simcha, something you're celebrating that you'd like to share? If you are on the live stream, feel free to share in the chat.
Today is our grandson Nate's second birthday.
Whoa! It's Nate's second birthday. Happy birthday. Whoa! My goodness, time flies. Happy birthday, Dean.
Very similar. Yesterday was my father's 76th birthday.
Wow. So his grandfather's 76th birthday. Okay. What a birthdays.
I just got a job at a place that I really like.
Woohoo! All right. You'll lead us on page 5?
Page 5.
That's not page 5. Do you want to turn to page 5?
Okay. Sorry, just the way you gestured that for a second, I thought it was, are you saying that this is page 5? But
It's not. Oh, it's not the magic tricks tonight. Okay, so we're going to start on page 5 at the top. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reshit ki hu yom tequila lemikra kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim kivanu v'chata v'tanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Chaim, to have a sip of that, and then you can put it back.
Lecha Dudi is a poem for Shabbat in which the Jewish people welcome Shabbat into their midst like a bride on their wedding day. We celebrate that joyful spirit that fills the room. Please join for Lecha Dudi on pages 20 and 21. We will sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9, and when we reach the final verse, we will rise as able and face the entrance to our sanctuary. Lecha Dudi. Wait, no. Lecha Dudi. Lecha Kabbalat. What?
It's okay, take it again. There you go.
Lecha Dudi.
Shabbat Adonai Echad Shmo Echad L'Shemo Tiferet V'Lechila Lecha Dodi L'Kakala Pnei Shabbat Mekabela Lecha Dodi L'Kakala Pnei Shabbat Mekabela L'Ikra Shabbat Ki mekor ha'bercha merosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aser b'machshava terfila lecha dodi v'karkala pnei Shabbat mekabela lecha dodi v'karkala Maeve gets to be our Aoife gets to be our Sabbath bride today. But you can come in inside. Boi v'shalom terabala, gam besimcha u'sohola, toch emuneh am segula. Boi kala, lecha dirti, likachana, penny Shabbat mekabela. Penny Shabbat mekabela. You may be seated, and we're going to continue on page 24 with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Shalom, Aleichem Shalom. Melech Malchei Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem Shalom, Malachei Hayom. Melech Malchei Hamelachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Barkuni v'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Hayom. Melech Malchei Hamelachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Sechem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Hayom. Melech Malchei Hamelachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu.
We transition now from the Kabbalat section of our service to the section of the service called Shema and its blessings. Kabbalat Shabbat gives us an opportunity to settle into the service and remove distractions. Now we are ready for the Baruch Hu, our call to worship. Please join us on page 28 and rise as you are able. We continue on page 30 with Ma'ariv Aravim, our prayer for giving thanks for the beauty of our natural world. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night.
Ahavat Olam is on page 32.
What is your scribble name then?
With me?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're on table 5. Yeah?
Yep. Oh my gosh.
Ahavat olam beit Yisrael. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael. Ahavat olam. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael. What a great love, great love, what a great love you have given us. What a great love, great love, what a great love you have given us. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael. Ahavat olam. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael. What a great love, great love, what a great love you have given us. What a great love, great love, what a great love you have given us. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Haolam Va'ad. Ve'ahavta Adonai Elohecha bechol levacha ubechol nafshecha ubechol me'odecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha. Vishinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'terech u'shokbecha uvkumecha u'kshartam leot ayadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kadoshim l'Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzoti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim li'ot lachem Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem, amen. On page 40 we have Micha Mocha, our prayer of freedom and redemption. We often talk about how in this part of the narrative, the Exodus narrative, that when the people walk through the Red Sea and cross over into freedom, that they're all marching together hand in hand. I also often talk about how the Passover story starts and ends with Miriam. It's Miriam at the beginning of the story that saves Moses, and it's Miriam at the end that comes up behind Moses and leads the people in song. And this week, I don't know if anyone tracks the news in Israel, but this week in Israel, there's been a headline for a very upsetting and disturbing piece of news, which is that there's a law that is working on being passed, and it has not yet passed, but it got through the next round of approval. And the law is to effectively change the rules around the Western Wall and who can pray where. So if you've ever been to Israel, then you've probably been to the Western Wall, to the Kotel. And you know, when you walk up to the main part of the wall, there's the men's section and the women's section, and it's divided. And then around the corner to the side, there's one very small but important egalitarian section where it's not controlled by the Orthodox rabbis, the chief rabbinate in Israel, in Jerusalem. And so they're trying to change the law to get rid, not to give them control over the whole Western Wall, which we know what that would mean, is that they would take away the right for women and men to be able to pray together. And that's been a really important spot for liberal Jews every month for Rosh Chodesh. The Women of the Wall goes there, women and read Torah there. People become bar mitzvah there that are not part of necessarily of the Orthodox movement, but part of liberal congregations. And so people are trying to speak out and make it known that we don't want this law to pass, how important it is to have that egalitarian space. And I was thinking about it, the Shabbat, in relation to this Micha Mocha prayer, and how unfortunate it is that we have right here in our story this vision of what redemption looks like. And it looks like people all marching together, men and women, and there's no distinction, and all the more so like that there is one woman leader at the front and the back, leading the people. And so as we sing this song of redemption, this song of joy, we do sing it with joy, but we also remember and think about the places in our world that are still, it's not even that they're not yet open, it's that they were these places that we know that have been open and are now being constrained. This is not the only one. There are many places in our lives that we see this happening right now. And we remember the call of this prayer, which is to not remember this vision and to keep on working for this vision of redemption. So let's sing together, page 40, Micha Mocha. Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you,
Hashkivenu is our prayer asking for God to provide a Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of peace over us during times of darkness. Let's join together on page 42.
shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Ashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom. Whoa, La'amidenu Shomrenu L'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Ashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom. Whoa, La'amidenu Shomrenu L'chaim. We're going to continue now with the Amidah, which begins on page 46, our standing prayer. If you're able, please rise. We'll join together. Adonai, Sefer Tivtal, Ufi Tehillatcha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, Eloheinu, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Hastei Avot v'Imachot, U'Mevi Gula Lifnei V'Neichem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magid, Baruch atah Adonai, Magid Avraham v'Ezras Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol otara v'Hoshia, Mashif ha'ruach u'morid ha'gashem, Mekel Chaim b'chesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofech olim, U'matir asurim, U'mekayem emunato lishenei afar. Micha mocha b'gevurot, u'midom elach, melech memit u'mechayek, u'matzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah le'achayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh ha'akol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, v'kodashim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'kadosh.
Please take the next few moments for your own silent prayer, and when you are finished, you may be seated.
take a moment now in our service to think about those who are in need of healing as we join together in our Mishaberach prayer on page 253. This Shabbat, we as a community are praying for the healing of Jacqueline Tara Smith, Deborah Rose, Eileen Kreisman, Ronnie Haber, Ellen Gottlieb, Vanessa Bianco, Paul McCready, Glenn Letts, Carl Wilhite, Cindy Balin, Patty Newby, Joe Giordano, Ron Louie, Marion Laird, Sheldon Robert, Lisa Bush, Patricia Barber, Paul Norris, Stephen Thrasher, Laura Halper, Bob Cook, Jason Getler, Nina Schechter, Amanda Young, Wyatt Curcio, Tom Anderson, Mary Wilhite, Stephen Shuckman, Jennifer Stock, Margaret Nichols Kornblue, Risa Coleman, Jessica Abbott, Jody Bucktenica, Seth Blank, Avery Dover, Nikki Resnick, and Chris Clark. If there are other names you have to add to our Mishaberach list, please share with us. Let's join together on page 253. In the Jewish calendar, there are a number of Shabbatot that have special names, special designations, and this Shabbat is one of them. This Shabbat is called Shabbat Zachor, which is Shabbat of remembrance. It's related to the word Yizkor, the word for remembering. And on Shabbat Zachor, it's a little bit surprising, if you ask me, but we're supposed to remember something very specifically. And this is, so oftentimes the special Shabbatot are connected to the upcoming holiday. So there's one for Passover, right? There's one before Yom Kippur. This one is before Purim. Purim is our holiday of joy. It's our holiday of celebration. And on the Shabbat before Purim, we are supposed to remember what Amalek did to us. Amalek was the original enemy of the Jewish people, because Amalek and his people were the first group of people after we got out of slavery in Egypt that attacked the Jewish people. And so we are commanded to remember this story right before Purim. It's a little bit surprising as we're going into this festival of frivolity and costumes and drinking, that we're supposed to lift up this story that's actually not even about necessarily Haman, though the rabbis say that Haman is a, thank you, boo, right? Okay, that was to get you all ready for Sunday when we talk about Haman. Great, okay, thank you. That he is thought to be descended from Amalek, right? So that's the connection with our Purim in theory. So, but it got me thinking about why is it that we would, during this month of Adar, we're commanded to increase joy. So why is it that in this month we are also commanded to tell one of the worst stories that comes from the Torah, one of the bad things that has happened to us? I don't know if anyone has been watching. Karen Rubin shared this with me on PBS. There's a series right now called I have to look at what it's called. Black and Jewish America, an interwoven history. It's very good. It's I think 4 or 5 part series. And in the first episode, where it centers around a Passover table that has people who are black and Jewish, people who are black and not Jewish, people who are Jewish and not black. I think I covered all the things. People are all sorts of intermixed Seder that's happening. And as they're going around and doing the Passover Seder, one of the people at the table says like, it's so interesting to me that in Judaism, we have this holiday once a year where we retell this horrible story of slavery, and we're commanded to tell this story about being slaves, and we like really focus on remember that you are a slave in Egypt. Remember. And yet, as a black person, when I talk, this person's saying as a black person, when we talk about slavery in America, we're often told, oh my gosh, that was so long ago, can't you get over it? Let's move on, we're past that, right? And that was not as long ago as the Passover story of slavery. And it's just really interesting to note the differences in how these two stories of slavery are told. And so that also got me just really thinking about why it is that Judaism values telling these stories. And I think with the Passover story, there's a really obvious, remember that you were a slave in Egypt, and therefore, right, we're supposed to welcome the stranger and take care of the vulnerable. Collective memory is so important and such a big part of Judaism, because it's really how we do this whole Ador, generation to generation thing. So there are 6 things in the Torah. There are 6 specific things that we are commanded to remember. So they are, in order of appearance, the Sabbath day, the sin of the golden calf, the Exodus from Egypt, what happened to Miriam, which is that she gossiped, they say, and therefore was struck with leprosy for all intents and purposes, what Amalek did, and Revelation at Sinai. So we have these 6 things that we're told we have to remember them. 3 of those are positive gifts, things that God gave to us, you could say, and they're these key moments that make up who we are as a Jewish people: creation, revelation, redemption. So Sabbath day, Revelation of Sinai, and redemption from slavery, Exodus from Egypt. 2 of them, the golden calf and the Miriam incidents, are, I think of as big oopsies on our part. One is a collective oopsie, one's a singular oopsie, but that we talked a lot about. We mess up. And then only one of those, remembering Amalek, is like this horrible thing that happened to us. And here's why I think that we are supposed to remember the story of Amalek, specifically right before Purim. The first is that we know that forgetting can be dangerous. The story of Amalek is that he represents an evil that preys on vulnerability, right? He attacks the people right after they have come out of slavery. And it seems, in a way, not random necessarily, but that it's just hatred for hatred's sake. And so the mitzvah of remembering Amalek, first of all, I think is not necessarily just about reliving trauma, because who wants to do that just for the sake of reliving trauma, but remembering and recognizing that evil exists in the world, it has existed in the world, it continues to exist in the world. The second is that Purim is ultimately a holiday of resilience and resistance. And there's some really interesting new research that has been coming out over the last few years around storytelling, family storytelling, and collective storytelling that helps build resilience. And they found in the research there are three types of stories that we tell. One is an ascending story. We came from nothing, now we're here. There's a descending story. We had everything and then we lost it. And then there's an oscillating story, which is representing the ups and downs, which is usually the most realistic part. If you take all the things of generations of a family story, rarely is it actually only ascending or descending. It is usually oscillating. And they have found that when families tell the oscillating story, that is where they find that the generations of that family, the kids, have the most resilience, that helps them to know that their family has been through hard times before and will get through it again. And so, as we are on this holiday of Purim, we tell this story. We also remember Amalek, and it gives that sense of oscillating, right? That we have these multiple narratives of things that have happened. We know happened again, will continue to happen, and also we know that we can get through them. The third piece is that memory can also move us into action. So the interesting thing about this commandment to remember the story of Amalek, it's like 3 verses long in Deuteronomy. We're told we have to remember what Amalek did to us, all the things. And then at the end it says, do not forget. And so the rabbis ask, as they should, well, it already says to remember. Why would it say don't forget? Isn't that implied by saying remember, don't forget? And they explained that both of them are in there because the don't forget explains that the way we remember has to be an active remembrance. It has to be what we by not forgetting, that is how we live in the world. It's supposed to shape our speech and our behavior. And Purim, so whereas Purim commands joy, Adar commands joy, I think Shabbat Zachor, this Shabbat, demands a sense of responsibility that is connected to that joy. We can't just have naive joy. We have joy knowing that there will be and have been and are things in the world that are darker and harder to deal with. But we're also not just supposed to dwell in the bad things. Judaism is not saying, like, just think about all the horrible things that happen to us. Because memories can imprison us, but they can also empower us. And in those 6 things that we're commanded to remember, I think it is noteworthy that only one of them is a thing that happened to us, and that 3 are positive things and 2 are things that we can learn from to do better next time. The 3 things, right? So we have to remember the hard things, but that's not the majority. The majority of the things that Judaism focuses on are these pieces that are these visions of hope and holiness for the future. So on this Shabbat, which is Shabbat Zachor, we remember what Amalek did. We can do that, but we can also commit ourselves to resilience and resistance. We can reaffirm our call that we are supposed to be builders of justice and bearers of light, as we're about to say as we recite Aleinu. And may our remembering lead us not to bitterness, but to strength, not to fear, but to courage. And out of that darkness, may we find true joy. Shabbat Shalom. And now, we will continue with that prayer, Aleinu, which reminds us that we get to be a light unto the nations. It is on page 283. If you're able, please Please rise and we will join together. Aleinu l'shaveach l'adam ha'kol, latet gdila le'atzer breshit, shehu samcha kenu le'echad hashemo, v'gor aleinu le'amlich malchuto, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai, l'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, may be seated. We'll turn now to page 294 for Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish, where we have a different kind of zachor, a different kind of remembrance. We always say Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. This Shabbat, we are in the Shloshim period of mourning the recent loss of our congregant Robert Bob Levin and George Levin, brother of Arnie Levin. And we also, on the Shabbat, mark the yahrzeits of Seth Eisenstein, Joan Alhadeff, Adeline Cohen, Iona Scheckmeister, Ted Altschul, Audrey Pearl Feldman, Sheldon Morgenstern. This is the first yahrzeit, the first year of Sheldon's passing. We also remember Zalman Newmark, Hy Wintrub, Frederick Ballmer, Marvin Klass, Thomas Roderick, Margot Wheel, Lillian Klein, Mildred Skolnick, Mildred Bowes, Gary Scott Kinner, Kendra Lorch. It's also the first yahrzeit marking the loss of Kendra, and Joseph Schuster. If there are other names you would like to add to our Kaddish list, or if I mispronounce a name, please share with us now. If you're able, I'll invite you to rise in support of our mourners, and we'll join together on page 294. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, v'yalmad divrach hirotei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon uvyomechon uv'chayei dekol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lamei almaya, yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiram v'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the one who comforts the bereaved be a source of comfort to us all. We say together, amen. You may be seated. We are going to close with, so we're going to come back up. We're going to do our final closing song in Hamotzi. Before we do that, I believe Jerry is here for many reasons, one of which is if you have Hamantashen to pick up, if you ordered Hamantashen, you can see Jerry after the service. Hope to see many of you tomorrow morning, or tomorrow night, or Sunday afternoon, or Sunday night, or Monday night. We have many, many things happening. You could just come here every day. It's always a party. We're going to end on page 353 with Ojavo Shalom at the very bottom. Yes, I don't know. I don't know what chords you're in. That's great. Yeah.
Adivo shalom aleinu.
Adivo shalom aleinu. Adivo shalom aleinu. Ve'al kulam. Adivo shalom aleinu. Adivo shalom aleinu. Adivo shalom aleinu. Ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam, salam. Salam aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam, shalom. Adivo shalom aleinu. Adivo shalom aleinu. Adivo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Adivo shalom aleinu. Adivo shalom aleinu. Adivo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Want to go grab the challah? Thank you to Zelly and Emma and Austin for leading a beautiful service. Yay, ta-da. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, habotzi lechem min haaretz, b'te'avon. B'te'avon. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Come get some challah. Join us at the oneg.
You the same one?
No, thank you. You look indignant. Shabbat shalom.